All right, we welcome you to another week of Borderline with Bernie Neighbors in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm Jeff McCarriger in Charleston, South Carolina. Again, this is Borderline. Again, thanks for tuning in. This week, another episode. You know, I was thinking earlier, it is so good that we don't do this show on Monday. Gosh, I was fired up. You know, my Cowboys got crushed.
I was texting
you and I were texting. I was so this would have been an insufferable show because after what happened to my Iowa Hawkeyes this year, and then the Cowboys and the constant hashtag fool's gold I've been warning everybody about, and then it comes true. I was in a bad mood, man. So I'm glad I've now had 3 or 4 days to rest. So now no one has to hear me rant about that. Well,
in your
defense,
defense,
a little bit about that.
In your defense, you have been 100% right on both. 100% correct on both.
Yeah, that was going to be my in the hole, but I figured people are sick and tired of me talking about it, so I figured
it's got to be. You know what? I'm quasi making it your in the hole. As a matter of fact, I don't like my
preemptive in the hole.
I'm making it my in the hole, as you were right about both of them.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I was fired up, dude. I was in a bad mood. I was just in a grumpy old man. I told you so mood. Yeah, so I'm glad I've had time to relax.
What's up with the Cowboys, though, man? What, they beat 3 winning teams this season? 3, and those were all at home, right?
Yeah, they won. Yeah, they beat 3 teams that had records over 500. 3.
I mean,
so, and the teams that they played that were good, if you remember, they got smoked by. You know, you and I were together the one night. They played the 49ers, and it was like 28-0 at half. And I mean, they got smoked by any good team that they played. I mean, for God's sakes, they lost to the Arizona Cardinals. They gave up 28 points to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I love the people. I have some other Cowboys fans. I mean, you know, there's a lot of y'all strewn throughout. They were talking about Belichick's now. I was like, Belichick hadn't go in there. Belichick hadn't listened to Jerry Jones. Can you imagine? That guy had a hard enough time with a conceited quarterback. You think he's going to be able to handle a billionaire that's got all the opinions in the world? There's no way.
Yeah, there were rumors of him going to Carolina. I don't see he and Tepper, getting along. I mean, really, when I heard him, the fact that he was getting an interview with Atlanta personality-wise might be the best fit with him and that. What's that?
The guy from Home Depot? Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Anyway, I think that would probably be a good fit because it's a very hands-off owner. I mean, very wealthy, obviously, and very powerful, but I think he would let Bill do his thing. But yeah, he I'm not sure that work out at Dallas or at Carolina.
By the way, while we're on this, I don't know how much at the professional level a head coach matters all that much, because, if you look at Belichick before Brady, as his other head coaching stints in the league, if you look at him after, starting quarterback in the NFL, it starts there, it ends there, right? I mean, there have been some teams who have that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, who was the quarterback, Dilfer?
Yeah.
That was he was a game manager, could get you a 3rd and 6 if you needed it, but he wasn't going to throw for 400 yards. I mean, you have to have a starting quarterback. You have to have
There's a couple anomalies out there.
A couple.
For the most part, yeah, but you're right. You need quarterback, but I do disagree though that coaching does matter, because
I think coaching matters. I think
if you look at like what Matt LaFleur has done well, and Matt calls all the plays. I mean, what he's done with Green Bay, what Sean McVay has done with LA,
play callers. I
realize Miami lost, but what Mike McDaniel's done with Miami. I mean, these young offensive minds in the game right now. I'm loving watching these guys play.
They're essentially coordinator, but I don't I think they get into trouble at times. Like, at some point, a head coach does have to make a decision, right? And if you've got an offensive play caller as your head coach, I mean, he's basically taken out of certain decision making, right? I mean, he's locked in on his one half of the football of the team, and I don't know if that completely works. We'll see. I mean, the Super Bowls have been won recently by it, so I mean, maybe it does. I mean, Andy Reid in Kansas City. I mean, he's as much as he's as involved in the offensive play calling as anyone else. I don't know. Maybe that's just where the game is now. I just feel like the CEO type is kind of going, because you have to have a quarterback. I mean, I don't care who you are. If you don't have a guy that can move the change and make drives when your team has to have drives, then you can't do it. It doesn't matter the X's and O's. It just doesn't matter.
Bill
You can't.
Belichick.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Right. It doesn't matter.
Great quarterback.
I mean, Belichick's going to go down as what, 2 or 3 greatest head coaches of all time? But if you look at his overall record with and without Brady,
Not good.
It's not great at all, actually.
Yep.
So yeah.
No, I think he was terrible with the Cleveland Browns back in his.
They made the playoff. By the way, that coaching staff, you had Nick Saban on that coaching. You had a few. It's
that was a hell of a coaching tree.
That coaching staff was insane. But it's so hard. So hard if you don't have the right personnel, and that's why the general managers, who none of us ever talk about, why they're so important.
Yeah.
And you can't have an owner sticking his hand in everywhere and saying, "I know more than you. I'm a billionaire. I know more than every." Can't have that. Yeah. It doesn't work.
I've always that's one of my probably closet dream jobs, is to be a general manager of a professional sports team, either baseball or the NFL. I love assembling teams. I think it'd be stressful. It'd be really difficult, but I really think I would enjoy doing something like that.
To your point, I went back and watched the Bulls thing, Michael, the Last Dance. Documentary, and Jerry Krause.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, what a jerk. But then I started thinking about it, like, in a way, he was kind of right. It's like, this isn't going to last forever.
Right.
And do we want to take it to the point where it's just unmanageable and then we have to completely start over? I mean, in a way, he was kind of right, but then he got destroyed for it, right? It ruined his career, because you're talking about dissolving a team that's.
It's really tough. It's really tough. I mean, look what happened with well, we need to get off this and talk some cornhole, but I mean, like look what happened with the Lakers. I mean, they rode Kobe all the way to the end, and Kobe got that big contract. And when Kobe got the big contract, and he's one of my all-time favorite players, rest in peace. But yeah, they couldn't get anybody around him, and it killed the Lakers as a team, and it really set them back for years. And same thing kind of with LeBron. They really haven't had a whole lot of chance to get a lot of pieces of the puzzle around him, because these contracts are so big. So yeah, you're right. It's a fine line. Like, when do you say goodbye to some of these stars, right?
Because we've seen it how many times in our lifetimes in sports, whatever the sport may be, where you do hold on to the stars for an extra 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And then by that time the team's dissolved. You've got nothing. And then you have to completely start over, which in professional sports is no guarantee, right? I mean, you could look. I mean, they look at these guys in the combine. They look at their film, in college or wherever, or whatever sport it may be, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
At the most elite level, and it's I don't know, man. You could want that. I don't know if I want that job, because yes, you do get the money, but you get none of the fame. You get everyone's always angry at you, right?
Sure.
Right? Because you're the one in the room with the players and their agents saying, "Yeah, you're not really that good, and we're not going to give you that money."
Well, right? and to your point too, if you're the GM and you win a championship, they don't give you any of the credit. They're like, well,
the players and coaching staff. Look what they did, amazing. Yeah. And then the owners just on you, right? The owners just always that's the one guy that's in your office all the time. Yeah. That would just be awful. Some billionaire that just thinks he knows more than everybody. That would just be a nightmare. So you can be a general manager if you want. I'll be the equipment guy.
You would be a great equipment guy.
Yeah, I'd be the worst, man.
You would be the best clubby in Major League Baseball ever.
I'm not watching that, fellas. I'm not doing that.
No. You'd be like the head clubby. So you have people underneath you doing
act like I'm important, but not really doing anything.
You'd be the main guy. Yeah, you'd be the main guy telling them what to do. You'd be the main guy taking the tips and
So I'm so that guy. Yeah,
you would be that guy. All right, so we're 10 minutes in. And so now cornhole. It actually, I mean, we're joking, but it actually was a huge weekend.
Yeah.
In Ohio, and another big one coming up in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love this. You and I were talking about this. I think we've been talking about this pretty much from the end of last year to now the beginning of this year. How great these opens are. In my opinion, these opens are just getting better and better and better, and more and more and more important every single year. And this year, no exception. And man, huge names in Ohio. I mean, so big time field. And I cannot wait to see who's in. I mean, this weekend in Texas is gonna be huge.
Yeah, foreshadowing, by the way, to later in the show. What we're talking about.
Okay, good.
Stay tuned.
I like
kids.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
We got to get to our power rankings.
Mhm.
We'll have our on, off, and in, or in my case, it might just be on, off, and off.
Right. God.
I don't know if I was right about anything, honestly.
What does it say about me that I have the hardest time within the whole? Like, is that like a personality flaw? Like, I just have zero self-confidence. Like, I never know what I'm really right about, even though I'll argue people to the death on stuff. Like, I really don't believe it. I just like arguing.
Yeah, we sit around all day. We're like, well, I was wrong about that. No, missed that.
Missed that one.
Oh, speaking of which, that's why I got a new book.
Power to Mind. What is that?
I don't know if you can read it.
The Daily what?
The Daily Stoic. You ever heard of it?
I have not.
I got a copy of it. It's just daily readings to kind of help you with that whole mindfulness thing. Mish would be so proud of me right now.
Mish would be all about it.
She's going to watch this week, but she'll be like, "Oh man."
She'd probably tell you that the author was way off, but she'd
probably No, it's just it's daily mindset things for positive reinforcement because otherwise, yes, you and I are the type who sit around all day. Well, wrong again.
Yeah, wrong again. Yeah, I don't want to be a cynic. Honestly, I don't. People don't believe that. I actually don't like being a cynic because it is kind of wasted energy. But I'm such a cynic.
You are.
If you look it up in the if you look it up in the dictionary, it'd be a picture of me going.
I need that emoji on my phone. I need that Bernie emoji on my phone.
Yeah. So bad.
So huge weekend in Ohio, and congratulations to Jaden Ellis. We'll talk a lot more about that.
Mm-hmm. Foreshadowing.
During our power rankings and on, off, and in. Real quick, while we're talking about kind of football and cornhole, a couple of thoughts. Well, by the way, you had a thought about wide receivers. Does that have anything to do with cornhole whatsoever?
No, but I'll do it really quick, and then people can laugh about it. I was like, I'm sitting there, and this is how my brain works, by the way. This is what a weirdo I am. I'm sitting there watching the game, the Steelers game, and like all the receivers wear like old quarterback numbers, right? Like 14, 17, 18. And I'm like, what if someone just got transported in time, sat down in front of this television, and was like, oh my God, they've got 5 quarterbacks and they're all running routes. I'm like, well, that would be like the weird, like that's how my brain works, by the way. I'm a really strange person, but I'm like, I kind of liked 88, 86, 81, 83. Yeah. I don't know. Am I old school? I just kind of liked it that the receivers had to wear 80s. I don't know.
I honestly haven't thought about it. So I don't know.
The entire Steelers receiving core wears old quarterback numbers.
Yeah. I've always liked single-digit numbers. I've always liked the 80s for wide receivers. I like the 80s for tight ends.
Yeah, I always like the number 5 for some reason, but I don't know in football that has the same resonance. But yeah,
you know what I love? Speaking of numbers, I love defensive ends who wear like number 7 or number 9. Love that. Those guys are always badass. They're always good.
You gotta be. You have to be.
Good.
You have to be.
If you're going to be a defensive end and wear number 9, you damn well better be.
Somebody help me. I can't remember what game it was. It may have been the Steelers, and the defense. One of the defensive ends was wearing 0. Somebody help me. I can't remember what game it was. Y'all out there, y'all will know. And I'm with you. I'm like, man, if you're going to be a defensive end and wear 0, that's awesome.
Yeah, you better be good. Better be good.
None shall pass.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's good. One more football thing. Now mine is football/cornhole. I don't know what your wide receiver thing had anything to do with cornhole because we don't wear numbers. Are we ever going to wear numbers? Probably not.
I hope not, but it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could do it in teams, but not necessarily.
Yeah, teams. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun.
So just real quick, and I'm not putting this in my on, off, and in. The whole DPR thing, and I know everyone's probably sick and tired of me talking about it. But again, it really just bugs me because Dallas had great DPR, right? Second best DPR in the league. But to me, DPR is still, and maybe we've gotten past it as a league. I think it's an informational stat.
Sure.
I think within context, I think it can be used well.
I think within one tournament, it has better value, and even then, you have to make sure you're going through a bracket. But yeah. I'm with you.
I mean, I looked back again. It's not a metric of defense. It's not. And this year in the NFL, and I'll look back on and kind of keep track of it as we move forward. I mean, because I think I'm dead in the hole on this thing. But what it is. It's more of a measure of strength of schedule than it is of defense. if you look at all the stats, which I did, and I'm not going to bore everybody with them, but really, the teams that had the best DPRs in the NFL this year, their strength of schedule was at best middle of the pack, but really lower half. So for me, it's really almost become a measure of strength of schedule more than of whether you're a defensive player or not. Matter of fact, in the NFL, if you look at the teams with the highest DPR, they were some of the weakest defensive teams. So it's just not. It's a good stat. And again, if somebody, like you said, within a tournament, right? Let's say Mark Richards goes through a tournament, he's got a high DPR. Well, you know what? What it means was he was playing really well. And just beat a lot of players. It doesn't mean that you're a really great defensive player. Sure. It means that you either had a low strength of schedule or you just played really well for a tournament. So I think it has a space. But for it to be this this end all be all defensive stat and make you a dirty player, some sort of metric of how much of a blocker, blocking player you are, no, I disagree.
I'm with you. I don't know if it was ever meant that way. I think it was a way of trying. I mean, we're a game figuring out stats, right? PPR was the first one, right? Yep. That was points per round was the first stat that we came up with, and then I think they're just trying to come up with different stats. I don't want to get like baseball. I know you love baseball and you're a stat guy because all baseball guys are stat guys. I don't want to get to that point because I think baseball leans way too much into their statistics. But somewhere in the happy medium, right? But I mean, because baseball, how many stats are there in baseball? There's like 30 stats. I mean, it's crazy.
Can savor you to death. Yeah, I agree.
And you can get so lost in the metrics that you forgot about the player. And you forgot there's a human being that has strengths and weaknesses besides their physical gift. I mean, I don't know.
I agree with you on that. Baseball is too much. But I do agree with you that our sport is trying to find stats. And I think where our future is going to be is in the in broadcast TV graphic stats. Like I cannot wait to get to the. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I love it when they show it, like in golf, right? I don't like it on every single hole, but I love it when they do the tracking of the ball, and
sure.
The way that you can see the fairway and the green, and when it's laid out, and they show the metrics and the distance and the velocity and the spin rate. I mean, that's I really hope that we can incorporate that at some point soon in our game, because I think that's going to take it to another level of interest where people are going to be like, just to see the bag height, to see the trajectory,
I would think
the speed.
I would think
it would spin rate. I think people will love this stuff.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be that hard. It's just how do you keep whatever chip that has to go in the bags? How do you keep it still? Because I think the more it got moved around with the other resin, the harder it would be to get a real read.
I don't think you need a chip in the bag, though.
Or
like a baseball, they don't put it on a baseball.
You need lasers all over the place, and those aren't cheap.
What's the track? It's the TrackMan. It's the big radar, the pad that sits behind it that tracks all this stuff. So
on certain stuff, but I mean the TrackMan, but
I don't think you need to put anything in the bag. But regardless, I just think I really think, Bernie, that it's going to raise the level of interest, because I think it'd be really cool to see, all that kind of, and the percent, like in the NFL where Mahomes will complete it just a crazy back shoulder pass 40 yards downfield, and instantly they know the metrics on the probability that was to complete that pass. Like I would love, like when Trey is on the telestrator talking about what a player needs to do and reverse cut or whatever, like it'd be cool to see the probability of actually making that shot. I just would love to see metrics incorporated like that in the broadcast. I think it'd be really cool to watch. And again, really raise the fan interest of and the experience of the viewer on TV.
Well, we need TrackMan on both sides. If I'm thinking about, because I think your point's really good about the TrackMan in golf. So when it says your ball is going this distance, it's going off of a mathematical formula to get that distance. It's not measuring the actual distance of the golf ball, right?
I think it would be
math.
Cool. Yeah,
it's still math, but it would be cool to have a TrackMan on the other end when the board lands to then get like the roll rate of the board once it lands. You know what I mean? Like of the bag once it lands on the boards, or the spin rate, or the speed of the bag up the board. Like stuff like that would be cool, because you watch certain players, and like if you ever watched Damon Dennis. Now, granted, he's just a slide thrower for the most part, but you ever watched him play, and the bag looks like it's barely moving, and then all of a sudden it's flying up the board. when it lands, and he's got this high arc, and it's like it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere, but then it flies up the board when it lands.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that is fascinating. I mean, granted, it's the bag. I understand that.
Yeah,
but there's
like,
more to it than
bags,
that. I mean, but yeah, I'm with you. It'd be cool. It would be
I'd
cool
love
if
to
we could
know
get both of those.
Yeah, I think at the World Championships, and Trey, I'd have to ask Trey about this, but I think at the World Championships they were testing some sort of system where they had multiple kind of tracking devices that they had put up in different corners of the broadcast courts.
Yes.
I think maybe to try and collect some of that data to see,
Yeah, it'd be
if
cool.
there's a future for that, but I think it'd be great.
It'd be cool. Does, like with a golf TrackMan and with a baseball TrackMan that they have that people use as hitters when they practice, can it handle things that are slow? Because I mean, cornhole bags aren't flying. I mean, they're not going at such a heavy rate of speed. Like, can they handle the lower velocity?
Yeah, low velocity. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen, I mean, you think of a changeup in baseball, but even at the minor league level, guys with a filthy changer, I mean, it's still going to be, I mean,
60,
I
70.
think the lowest changeup I've ever seen is probably in the 60s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Throwing like an ephus.
That's a lot faster than our cornhole bags are going.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure they're working on that, but I can't wait to get that developed. Like Jamie Graham, I would love to know on Jamie's push bag sometimes when he has to go low and hard and push bags up the board, how fast is that bag going and how high is it off the ground? Some of these bags, I swear, are just above knee height that some of these guys throw just to try.
Now that would be fun. I'm with you on that. It would, some of these guys that can really, really generate pure power when they're trying to push through, a clogged board, if you will, that would be interesting to see. And to me, that's kind of the difference between the men and women's game at this point, is the velocity that some of the guys can generate and the spin rates that some of the guys can generate, because they can get through messes a little bit easier than some of the ladies can. And that's
the spin rate, I think, would be really cool to watch.
It would be, and like the angles to get the kind of lean angle that like especially guys that are really good with roll bags, the kind of lean and backloading that they get, tilt, that would be kind of tilt of the bag would be interesting. I mean, there has to be a way, right? It's just how, I guess, in our terms, how expensive is that technology?
Yeah, probably expensive. Like I was just kind of thinking of like a Berkeley pair. When you stand next to Berkeley pair, which people watching, many of you have because you've played him, the spin rate on his bag, I'd love to know what the spin rate is. I watching on TV is so different than when you stand next to somebody. And I had the same experience when I was in baseball. The further you get away from a sport as a spectator, the slower everything gets, right? So I remember I was it was at the Hall of Fame, and we were in Canton, Ohio last year, and our flight was delayed. So David Harris, our producer with ESPN, and I decided to go back to the venue and just throw some bags. And so Berkeley's throwing, so he came over and messed around with us. And I couldn't believe, just watching right next to him, the spin rate that Berkeley had on that bag. I'd love to know what that revolution rate is versus some other players in the sport. I know he's not the only one who does it. I mean, Caleb Batson, holy cow, dude can spin it, right? And I just love to put a number on that just to see, but it's impressive. It's so impressive to watch.
Yeah.
So to put a number to that, I think might help with the viewer.
But, and I think it would help the players, to be honest. I mean, and I mean this because you've got some of the older players that have very slow rates. The spin rate is just not very high. Yeah. There's probably a range that gives you the most optimum level of making shots. The most controlled, like, getting it too high is probably a little bit more out of control. Getting it too slow, a little more out of control. There's probably a spin rate in there that's of maximum control. And maximum workability.
See, all this stuff would be great. It's just,
I mean,
we're just geeking out on it, talking about it on the podcast.
I know, I'm with you.
Yeah, it'd be great. It reminds me of, like when I was standing next to Berkeley pair, back in the minor leagues, just because, I played sports in high school, but I didn't play at a high level, and I was never a starter. Tennis, but not in any major sport. And so I had never seen, a 90+ mile an hour fastball thrown my way. And I remember my first year in the minor leagues when I was in Greensboro, North Carolina with the Yankees single A. We had a pitcher named Brian Reith. and he could sling it, man. I mean, really, really good arm. Not the fastest on the team, but still, he's throwing low 90s.
Yeah.
And Tom Filer was our pitching coach, and I was up in the press box one day, and he and I had gotten into a conversation about pitch speed and I can't remember exactly what our conversation was about, but anyway, I was up in the press box, and he motioned for me to come down, and so I came down because Brian was throwing on the side. It was his day to throw on the side, and so he said, grab a helmet and get in here. And I'm like,
No way.
I don't know if I want to do this.
Is Brian Wild?
No, fortunately not. But I'm like, nah, I'm good. He's like, get a helmet. He's like, if you want a mitt, put on a mitt too. And I'm like, okay. So I decide, as Brian's upping his velocity up into the 90s, and he tapped out a 93 that day on the side, that I would stand in the box. And I'm telling you, if you've never stood in the box
on you in a hurry
and seen, let alone heard, what 93 sounds and looks like, it's scary, dude. I mean, you could literally, you hear the zip. I mean, it literally zips past you in just a second. And so I kind of felt in a similar way with Berkeley. When you stand next to a professional cornhole player who is throwing at that high level, it's really amazing to watch. But that
really, by the way, back to your baseball thing, listening to baseball hitters, professional hitters say, look, I'll hit a speeding bullet if I know when they're pulling the trigger and I know it's straight.
Yes, it's crazy.
And they'll hit anybody. Like you can throw 103 if it's straight and doesn't move, and they can kind of learn your pitch. They'll hit it, which is freaky to me.
I know,
because what you're talking about. I mean, I get the fact that your eyes adjust as you get older and you see faster and faster and faster. Your eyes, I get all that, but it's still amazing what they're able to do.
Well, they see this,
right?
That's how they react. They can see if it's they can see if how you're gripping the ball, and
which is crazy.
So they try to catch you up here,
which is crazy. Because that's so fast.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yep. That's why it's important for pitchers too to change their arm angle. Like so many guys will throw a fastball over the top versus maybe a slider. They come down a little bit, so they look at arm angle, they look at your grip, circle change. I mean, they try to catch everything here or down here on your they try to catch it everywhere to give them some sort of tip of what they're about ready to see. Because once it's released, literally it's a split second.
That's why it's surprising that baseball's taken the dive that it has. It's just not a sport that people watch on television anymore. It's just because things like that.
The ratings went up last year.
It's fascinating to me, though. It's fascinating because that's still the hardest thing in sports is hitting a major league pitcher. Yeah. Right? I mean, like, how do you do it? Because most guys just don't throw it dead straight. Even if they're throwing it 100, it's moving. It's I mean, it's crazy what those guys are doing.
There's little things they look for. They can see the spin. They can see, a four seamer is going to show a little bit more red. A slider is going to show a dot. I mean, there's little things that they can look for with the revolutions, but
which is spooky.
It's hard.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's hard. All right. I had another thought this week, but the more I thought about it, I just don't think it's possible.
What's up?
Because I read an article on ESPN about, and then we got to move on. We got to get to we have to make sure we leave time for power rankings and our on, off, and in this week. I've done a crappy job the last couple of weeks of making us too tight. I was reading an article on ESPN about conferences and this move towards what could be basically, by the time it's all said and done, Bernie, it could be like 4 super conferences.
Sure.
And so I started thinking to myself, like, do we need to do more with our conferences? But I'm not sure we can fit any more in. We've got teams, we've got the opens, we've got the championships, we've got the world championships, and I know I get it. I know we have conferences, but people are so tribal that if we had instead of having all the conferences that we had, if we had 4 super conferences, and if maybe we televised our conference championships, put those on Fox or ESPN or TBS or TNT. I wonder if anyone would be interested in that, because I hate that Jamie Graham didn't go to Ohio. I hate that he's not going to be able to go to Texas. Not all the great players in the sport can make it to all these, but that we get a chance to see all of them on TV at a conference championship. and then at this conference championship, whoever the winners are, maybe they're automatic qualifiers in the world or something like that. But I don't know. It was just kind of a dumb idea, because the more I thought about it, we've got so much going on in this sport right now.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know my
It's
thoughts
travel.
on this.
That's
I feel like if anything, we need to simplify it more.
Yeah.
So that would just be adding to the mix. But
I don't
because they're so tribal for fans.
Yeah, I don't dislike the idea. It's just with travel, we don't have a spot yet where the players can afford it.
I know.
And I mean, that's all. It's all of any of this comes down to, can it be done financially for the players and for the league? That's all. I mean, for us, we're still stuck in that, because we could come up with a million good ideas, but is it financially feasible?
Yeah,
and that's what's.
You're right. And we've made the analogy many times, and we're old enough we can remember this now. The money's bigger for these guys now, but back in golf, back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s,
70s,
when it was the Nike Tour, and then I can't remember what it was before then. But a lot of these guys, they couldn't afford to travel to all the opens, to try and qualify for the PGA Tour, because they're having to pay everything themselves.
Even the guys on tour,
they're having to pay for their flights and the hotel.
Pre-Tiger, the PGA Tour. Like, if you got down, top 125, keep their card. You get down in the 100s, pre-Tiger. Those guys were paying. I mean, those guys were paying almost a lot of stuff out of pocket. So I mean,
same thing. Yep.
I mean, that's we could get into the whole. That's why we need that. That one special transcendent player, because I mean, look what Tiger did for golf. I mean, you make the tour, it's life-changing now, even if you finish dead last, or 125, I should say, and keep your car. I mean, it's literally life transformative. It's generational transformative financially. And it wasn't like that before. And that's why we could get into that whole argument again. That's why we need that transcendent person. And it's not something you can create, by the way. It's not something, and I know the league's trying, they're putting money into, what do we do, trying to find that player and then push that person in the right direction and give them some help with this and that. That person's got it. It's an it factor. It's something they're born with. It can't be created.
Yeah, I've agreed with you on that. It has to happen organically. We don't know who it is yet. Yeah, but we will. We'll know it. We'll know it instantly.
Hopefully we get to that point.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Let's get moving here with our power rankings. Mine changed this week. My power rankings actually changed drastically after what I saw. And again, just a little talk on this. It's fun. It's fun to do these. It's very difficult. I hope everyone appreciates it, because you and I spend time during the week actually thinking about this and putting it together. But mine this week definitely has it's a combination of I will call it broadcast bias. And also maybe some recency bias in there.
Mm-hmm.
But after our power rankings, I got a major question for you that maybe we should have hit by now. Maybe I'll have to save it for next week at this point.
Okay.
But I've got a change. I've got a change in mind. So I don't know. How does yours look? You want to go first?
Similar. There's a little bit difference. Obviously, my number 8, as everyone that follows the show, all 10 of you are aware, I do adjust my number 8, so it's kind of a fun number in my rankings. But it's similar. It's pretty much the same, except for a couple. All right, if we want to start with it, my number 10, and I struggled with this. That's why I made it a tie.
My number 10 is a tie too.
Because if I struggle with something, I have to tie it. I just
did
can't.
The same thing.
I've got Devin Harbaugh back in my top 10, and I've got him tied with Hunter Thorne. Wow. Right, so I've got Hunter. I mean, Hunter leading up to he's been playing really, really well, and I think he's deserving. So I've got them tied as my number 10. Wait a second,
10. How much do you take into consideration doubles then? You must take. I mean, for
Devin, pretty good amount. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, Gavin Cano. I mean, I think it's the reason he's in my top 10. It's his doubles prowess. Obviously,
he's also really playing well in singles too.
Hell of a singles player. So I mean, that's why he's further up my list.
Because Devin, I don't even think Devin finished in the money in. Yeah, he didn't even finish in the money in singles.
Yeah, he's still, and we're going to get into that when we get into my on, off, and in. Okay. And I'm still struggling with some stuff with the opens, but that's my tie for now. I've still got Jake Gore, my number 9. I'm struggling with that. I'm not hearing enough out of Jake, but that's tough. I mean, these are guys that can't travel all over the place. That's why the opens, and I'll get into that in a second.
You will. Sorry to interrupt. You will this weekend. They were not, because I reached out to them when I didn't see their name finishing in the money in Ohio. I didn't see either one of them. So I was just texting with Jackson yesterday. So no, they didn't go to Ohio, but they are going to Texas. So big opportunity for both of them this weekend.
So I've got Jake in at 9. My number 8, which is my fun slot, I actually threw in the 2 finalists in Ohio. I mean, it's 2 high school kids. I mean, that's crazy. Guys that were in our almost our high school final end up playing in the finals of the Open in Ohio. It's Jaden Ellis and Landon Bass.
You put Landon in your top 10. Oh my gosh. Okay.
They're in my number 8. It's a special number. I can take them out. I mean, because they made that final, I put them both in there. I mean, I think Landon's been playing really well. I mean, been playing very well himself. Everyone in the Virginia area knows how good he is. For them making that final, getting past a lot of the pros that they beat, I put them both in my number 8 slot. Number 7, that's why I'm not adjusting my 10. If you've noticed, if I got a tie, I'm not like, I've got a tie at 8. I'm not making, putting Jake at number 10. I'm just keeping them both at number 8. Number 7, Ryan Windsor. Ryan Windsor, I still think is a very hot player, still playing really well.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of found his game again. Some people talk about the comfortability he has with his bags. Sounds good. I've got him in at number 7. Number 6, Gavin Cano. To your point, Gavin has just kind of made himself one of the guys. And I think everyone else knows it. And I think that gets you something. When everyone realizes you're that guy, I mean, guys kind of fight to get to that elite level, and some guys fall off. But when the top players kind of recognize, yeah, you're that guy too, I think that's special. And Gavin's kind of that guy right now. Jeremiah Ellis.
There's no radar that Gavin Cano is not on.
Right, exactly. Number 5, my top 5 is the same. I've got Jeremiah Ellis continues to do what he's doing. Got him at number 5. Fisher Hamilton. On recency bias, do I keep Fisher Hamilton there? I don't know. But I've got him at number 4. Tony Smith, still got him at number 3. Ryan Trader, number 2. Mark Richards, number 1. Those don't change.
Trader, number 2.
He's insane. He's insane. And if he, we'll see what the next few weeks holds. But for right now, I got him at number 2.
All right, here we go. So my number 10 this week, and my number 10 is a tie. Jamie Graham, I dropped him down to number 10. He's still got to be there. He's the defending world champion. So until I have a reason not to put him in my 10, I'm going to keep him in my 10. He, unfortunately, again, I was just talking with him this week. Not in Ohio, not in Texas. I'd like to see him play more. But again, for the time being, I'm going to keep him in there until he gives me a reason not to be in there, just because he's the defending champ and he's a 2-time world champion. So Jamie Graham, Ryan Windsor tied for 10th. I'm with you. I think I was off on Ryan by a year, because remember last year I was really high on Ryan just because we had him on the show as a guest, and he had talked about he kind of rededicated himself and his focus on cornhole, and it didn't really pan out for him numbers wise last year, but man, he's off to a great start this year, no doubt. So number 10, Jamie Graham, Ryan Windsor. Number 9, Jake Gore. Same reasons that we were just talking about with you. And again, big weekend coming up for him in Texas this weekend. All right. So now my 8, 7, and 6, 6, 7, and 8. I'm just calling these guys my new 3-headed monster, because I don't know where to put them in my top 10, but because of what they are doing and the level they're playing at and this new trajectory of the sport, I had to figure out a way of getting these guys into my top 10. So I reached out to my sources this week. And by sources, I mean the professor and Wally. So shout out to Wally and the professor. Thank you for all of your help and your insight and your advice and your direction. But so my 6, 7, and 8 this week, in this order for now, Caden Allen, Jaden Ellis, and Jeremiah Ellis. Actually, you know what? I decided to flip that. Sorry, make that Caden Allen, Jeremiah Ellis, and then Jaden Ellis. Congratulations to Jaden. Huge win in a just stacked field in Ohio. I just feel like I'm putting Jaden at 8, Jeremiah a little bit ahead. Jeremiah has not picked up a win yet, but it's early. He's a rookie. It sounds like from all my sources that Jeremiah is maybe the best of the 3, as far, and by best I mean maybe the most solid.
Yes.
Not the most accomplished yet, but maybe the best player.
I think he is the most accomplished out of that 3. When you look at
Caden and Jaden each have the
totality. I know, but the totality of the season. I mean, do you like one great tournament, or do you like 7 tournaments where you're in the Final 4?
Well, I like winners. I mean, I'm like the Yankees.
If you win 26 times, yes, but if you win once, what does that mean? I mean, the Yankees
I think to win a singles open this year is just so
I
good. And Jaden and Caden have both done that. Jeremiah hasn't yet. I'm sure it's coming, but anyway. So for now, 6, 7, and 8, I'm doing Caden, Jeremiah, and then Jaden Ellis. So that rounds out my 6 through 10. All right, top 5. Here we go. Number 5, Ryan Trader. I agree with you. You know how much I love watching that kid play.
Yep.
Number 4, Fisher Hamilton. Fisher and Ryan were in a tough bracket this weekend. They were in the same bracket as Tony Smith, and Fisher and Ryan went 1-1 against each other. I don't know who's better. They're both so good. But again, Ryan Trader 5, Fisher Hamilton 4, Gavin Cano 3, for all the reasons we just talked about. And here we go. Number 2 and number 1, just for this week for power rankings, because I like to keep it fresh. I like to change things. Right now, I'm putting Mark Richards number 2. He had a really solid weekend, and we love Mark, but he had bad losses against Landon Bass and Jeremiah Ellis. He split 2 games against Jeremiah, but really suffered a bad loss against Jeremiah that second time, and a bad loss against Landon. Meanwhile, Tony had a really tough bracket. I mean, there were a couple of really tough brackets, but Tony had to go through Fisher, and he had to go through Ryan Trader. So, I mean, Tony had a really good weekend. Didn't win it, but a tough bracket, a tough finish. So I'm giving Tony the slight nod this week and putting him at number 1 on my power rankings. And congratulations, by the way, to Tony and Mark, the first of what could be many, many wins on the double side. But what are your thoughts on that?
I like it. I like it. I think you're underestimating Jeremiah Ellis a little bit. I think Jeremiah Ellis has kind of proven.
A little bit higher.
Has he won? I mean, has he been in finals? Yes. Has he lost to Mark Richards in some amazing matches? Yes. I mean, I just think that when someone's been in as many Final Fours as he has this season already, it's kind of hard to not, really hasn't won. You're right, but he's there all the time, even in doubles. I mean, with Devin.
Wally, I've talked to Wally about him 2 or 3 times. And he keeps telling me just how terrific and what a solid player he's been. So that's why I figured I had to get these guys into my top 10. I mean, I had to figure out a way to get these guys in, because I've had them in kind of my honorable mention over the last couple of weeks. But I mean, it's time to get these guys in there, which brings me to another point that, again, probably don't have time for. So let's save this for next week. But here's my question to you.
Yep.
Are you, and by the way, honorable mention, shout out Joe Niestead. Joe's coming. He's right there. And Nico Morales.
Nico played great.
Nico was on my watch list at the beginning of the year.
Nico played
finished 5th overall. So I mean, these are 2 dangerous players right now. And I do have Landon Bass also honorable mention. Shout out to one of our high school players. Great weekend. But, all right, so here's my question to you, and let's table it for next week. But are you, and this goes out to everybody, are you concerned with the names Steven Bernasette, who played well, Jimmy Humans, Matt Guy, Ryan Smith, Adam Hissner, Devin Harbaugh, Kyle Malone, some of these names we've talked about? Are you concerned with the future of some of these players, with this new generation of cornhole player that we have? Like, are these guys going to be able to compete at a high level against some of these kids and some of these players? And I guess we shouldn't call Jeremiah Ellis a kid. He's one of the older rookies, but against some of these guys with these crazy games, in 3, 4, 5 different shots that they can throw with confidence. Are some of these other players going to get left?
I've said it a number of times. I've talked about a few of the players you mentioned a number of times on different shows that, now, like we've talked about, you have to be more of a 5-tool player. And can the old style of being a 2-shot player, does that really work anymore? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Matt Guy.
Some of these OGs, I'm really kind of.
I think Matt Guy could lead the league in PPR again and finish outside the top 15 again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
Right, let's dive into that a little bit more next week when we have more time. But yeah, there's specific names that who I love. I love everybody. I mean, we have such great players, but I am concerned. I mean, this new crop of players, man, wow, they are impressive. All right, ready? On, off, and in.
Let's do it.
Last couple of minutes. Again, I'd love for mine to be on, off, and in, but I think mine's going to be on, off, and maybe off again.
Yeah.
So many things.
My on the board this week.
Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins.
Oh.
Early in the season when everybody's playing in warm weather, and there's no bad weather to worry about. The Miami Dolphins looked great. And people say this about Miami all the time. It's not new. But I was I was worried in the middle of the season. I was like, is Tua really that guy? And once again, we get to quarterbacks. Is Tua that guy when things start to change a little bit, when things don't get easy, when the temperature changes, when the winds pick up, when you got to go on the road and going on the road means something? And I don't know. I think I was on the board at the beginning of the season, I think I talked about them being a cheat code, and they had it was like a 4x4 track team out there just running around. But that's when everyone was playing in the same heat, right? Like all the fields are great, everything's great, right? But when the weather started to change, Miami started to change, and I was worried about them, and I think that was on the board, that worry. And I don't know if Tua's that guy. I really don't. And maybe I'm sure someone could bring up some stats that could prove me wrong. I'm sure. I just don't know if Tua's that guy.
I've never thought he was, but for me, it was more of the injuries. But again,
I'm not even talking about the injuries. You bring in the injuries, he's definitely not that guy, right? One more hard hit, his career's over, right?
Right. Yeah, which I thought he took in Kansas City, but he ended up being okay. All right. Yeah. So what's your off?
Eagles. I thought the Eagles were going to be back in the Super Bowl this year. What in the world happened to the Eagles? I was way off the board there, especially mid-season. It was like, man, the Eagles are here. They are again.
Shocking,
right?
Shocking.
And maybe I don't know, man. This has been a pretty ugly fall from grace for the Eagles. So I was off the board there completely. My in the hole. I still don't think the opens mean all that much to the top level pros. Just don't. And I think that's why we're going to see our top tens. I think they're going to change. I think they're going to change throughout the season, especially if we get into the championship series, with the professionals, and you're going to see certain guys rise and certain guys fall. I just don't think certain guys care enough about the opens yet. Maybe in a season, maybe I don't know. I just don't think it's there. The buy-in from certain top level pros is there yet.
Yep. Good topic. We can talk about that next week as well. Yeah. Jamie Graham, good example. But again, maybe, well, all right, we're going to get 2 minutes left. But yeah, is it money? Is it money? Is it because the money, the winnings aren't there? Is it because
combination of it all.
Travel?
Sure.
Jamie was in Ohio, not going to Texas. Would love to see him there. The Gores weren't in Ohio, but they're going to Texas. Is
costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Lots to talk about and unpack there. All right, real quick, my on, off, and in. Again, mine's going to be on, off, and off for the sake of time here. My on the board, end of season trends matter. We were just talking about this. I actually won money on this weekend because of the Philadelphia Eagles. I wasn't going to buck the trend. They had lost 5 of 6. And I looked at this in the past, right? I looked at Kansas. I looked at UConn. I looked at the Denver Nuggets. I looked at the Texas Rangers. All these teams who have won championships in the last 4 to 5 years all played well at the end of the season. I was never a believer in that. I was off the board, but all of a sudden I jumped on that. I was on the board about Philadelphia. I wasn't a believer. I took Tampa Bay and won a lot of money this weekend. So
nice. Good for you.
Off the board. My front yard. When we first bought this house, I was so excited. We got this. We downsized, but I love our house. It's a cool contemporary house. The front yard, we got a bunch of pavers, a nice driveway. But then there's pebble rock, right, that fills in. And I'm like, this is gonna be great. I don't have to mow. The problem is what I found through all the storms and through all the leaves, because there are trees all over the place and everything. So I can't just get my mower out and just mow all that crap up. So now I got to take a blower, right? So now I get my blower out and I'm trying to blow all the leaves. So what happens? Now I'm just blowing rocks all over the place, getting rocks all over the pavers, rocks. It's a freaking mess. So now I'm like, okay, so I'm totally off the board.
Where's your house again?
James Island.
That's right. You moved to James Island.
Yeah. Our address is Charleston, but it's on James Island.
Yeah.
And then finally another off again. I couldn't think of anything I was right about this week. The Miami Dolphins. I'm going to be the opposite of you. I really, I love these young coaches. We talked about it earlier. Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel. I put him in there. I love him. And I thought I wasn't sure if they would win. I thought they would compete in Kansas City. And man, they just got absolutely run over. Tua just didn't look like he was even ready. He
didn't look like he wanted to play. And I get the weather. I get the weather, but
totally missed on that.
I get the weather, but it didn't look like they wanted to be there at all. And as soon as things started to go south, they were like, "All right, let's get back on the bus."
Yep. I'm not a big believer in Tua, but that combination of Tua and Mike McDaniel, I bought in on. I was riding that wave, and man, missed that one hard. So that's my on, off, and off.
I like it
for this week.
I don't know, man. You're still in on the Cowboys and Iowa Hawkeyes. Right?
Yeah,
just overrated. I mean, beating bad teams doesn't make you good. It just makes you the best of the bad.
Yeah.
Right. That's
great note to end. Great note to end. All right, we got 2 seconds left. See you, buddy. Good to see you. We'll see you next week.
See you.